We are at part 3 of our demo about building an intelligent system around MongoDB vector database. So here we are on part 3, but I think I owe you a quick recap of how we got here. So of course you should watch the videos to see what we were experimenting with, but on a very high level here. In the first part, it was as if I was teaching a human to speak database. And what I mean by that is we were essentially in a situation where there were direct searches we were executing on the database, and that required very specific ways of making those queries, right? And generally speaking, that's not how users would want to operate. That user could be a user in your business, or it could be a consumer who, of course, would not love this kind of an experience. Of course, this is from, yeah. Next one, teaching the database to speak human. And essentially what this pattern, if I may call it that, is doing is you are speaking in human terms, and the database is able to pull out what matters, the category, who are we talking about here, any other filters. So again, go back and watch my video around how we were looking at implementing all of these things. But in this case, we are beginning to make our ability to ask the system a question and to be able to get the right response a little more intelligent by adding some additional elements, introducing a large language model to parse and figure out what the intent is. And when the traffic is coming back, you're essentially re-ranking those results and surfacing what you feel is most appropriate. So all that we looked at, and we looked at why that matters, how that can have a big difference on how your systems are architected, etc. So now where I want to go next is following. It's as if somebody understands your intent. They are there to help you. It's like an agent helping you out, a shopping assistant, if you will. So in this case, the question I asked and where I left part 2 was to say, who can help build a system, or how can you perhaps build a system around an excellent high performance, high veracity database like MongoDB Atlas, but then the experience you're going for is something which is assisted and benefits from all that data organization, etc. So where we find ourselves now in this agentic pattern, and what an agentic pattern looks like, and I promise you it might look complex, or however little complexity you can see here is extremely easy to understand. I'll walk you through that in a second. Much of the components I have shown you before continue to make their way through into this part 3 of my video. Why? Because you still need to vectorize, make the data available in a certain format, in vector format, and those embeddings are going to sit inside of MongoDB. No change there. We have introduced an element of what's called an MCP server. I'll talk to you about that in a second. But what's new here is this agentic framework. I'm using Solace agent mesh in my example. I'll give you a demo of that in a second. But what's happening here is the query and response system now belongs or is deeply integrated with the agentic framework. So the query and response system then in the backend has got multiple components, all abstracted away from the user. The user doesn't get to see them, doesn't need to see them, which includes an orchestrator, which is Solace agent mesh, choosing and helping figure out the intent of a query. It has got then the backing and the support of multiple agents to figure out and execute that task. We'll see one agent that I have implemented. And then there are multiple tools available in this ecosystem to take action. So in this case, for example, I'm saying that these MCP calls can be made via these tools, which can be connected to the agents, etc. We are not going to go into the coding elements of this. Happy to do that in a follow-up perhaps, but architecturally speaking, what you're going to see and what we're going to focus on here are these big pieces. Before we move forward, what is MCP? In a nutshell here, there's a ton of action that MongoDB allows you to do programmatically. And the programmatic component shows up in typically APIs, programmable interfaces. That's the P in the APIs. But the number of APIs keeps going up and down. APIs keep changing their definitions. A lot happens there. So increasingly now, majority of our platforms and services are exposing an MCP server, which is able to take a request from, in this case, Solace Agent Mesh, and then figure out how to execute that request. So it's abstracting away all that complexity. So in our case, for example, the MCP, the MongoDB Atlas server had 28 different tool calls / things that you could do inside of their environment, and those are all available and accessible via MCP. We'll see, based on the kind of queries we make into Solace Agent Mesh, some of those. Okay, here we are looking at the Solace Agent Mesh user interface. So in the chat window, I'm going to type help me buy some footwear, and let's see what the response is. They're saying, what kind are you looking for? I'm going to say sneakers, and let's see what's going on in the back end here. Okay, so as you can see here, right, what happened is a series of agents did things, and in the back end, or their own back end, they were going and speaking with an LLM, and I'm using Gemini Flash 2.0. And this, what's going on here, this specific tool is inside MongoDB. So it's doing a tool call. The agent is configured with the MCP server on MongoDB's MCP server definition, and within which, as far as I remember, they have 42 tools that the agent has discovered. Now, all of these agents, right, the orchestration agent, orchestrator agent rather, and we looked at the visuals where they sit and things along those lines. We're not going into details because this idea is to just show the idea of agentic way to navigate your data. And I'm showing you now the view of agents inside of Solace Agent Mesh. So this is all based on Google agent-to-agent protocol. If there are more agents, Slack, RAG, and so on, right? Or I could add perhaps an emotions sensing agent, right? Those are things I can define in a YAML, and that again is a deeper dive on Solace Agent Mesh, not what we are doing here. Those elements are now well understood, and it's all happening behind the scenes. So is there something else I can throw in for under $100, and then it can be a good gift for an active friend. Oops, I misspelled friend, but let's see. I'm going to say yoga. Let's see how that goes. And again, let's see what's going on in the back end. Tool calls, findings, something else they bring back. Okay, so that sounds good. Yes. So those two items. Okay, so that's a good way for us to navigate all the information we have in our MongoDB Atlas. It was happening, as you noticed, on the back of the MCP. Now, this is interesting, right? This last call you saw, it did not go into MongoDB. It was resolved right here. It was resolved by the orchestrator to say, okay, yeah, this is not about getting a price, getting details about the product. All I'm saying is this makes sense, and I'm gonna do whatever's next, right? I have not configured here a checkout store or anything yet, so it does not go beyond the LLM. So that's a little demo here. Thank you.